Hey everybody, it's Angel from Halo Inspirations. Happy Wednesday to each of you. I'm glad that you stopped by. But here at Halo, we give you inspirations to help you spread beauty and joy through your quilting journey. So what are we doing today? Well, we're using some of our orphan blocks as labels in the middle of a small project. So what is an orphan block? I know a lot of you are fairly new to quilting, so orphan block is thrown around a lot, and it's actually just what it says it is, and it doesn't have a home per se. So you may have where you've done test blocks like I do. Anytime I start a new project or a block I haven't done in a while, I want to make sure. Maybe you started a quilt project and decided that you didn't want to do it and you didn't like it. So then you have all these blocks and you don't know what to do with them. You can use those for your labels, and y'all know how I feel about labels. They tell the story of your quilt, and for years to come, long after we are all gone, part of your story can be inside of your quilt. So the first thing I'm going to do, these are all some of my orphan blocks. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to get it into the middle of a small project. I personally, now we all have our preferences, I wouldn't put it in the middle of a long arm, something I'm going to big, that I'm either going to have long armed or it's just really big in general, because a lot of times it's hard to get it exactly in the middle. And if it's something that's going to bother you, if it's just slightly off, that just wouldn't be the method. I have other methods for that. So that is another video later to come this year. But for small projects, it's actually very easy. Now, I don't want to scare you, but I am going to talk math. And there is a way to do this without math. And I think I'll do another video sooner than later showing you how to get this done in the middle. It's just it works with my mind, math does. And so I am going to use math, but you can always but stop the video. You can write in your own numbers. You can utilize this over and over and over again, because I'm not going to take it down. So I'm going to show you how to get your orphan block in the middle of your small project of your backing, okay? And then at the end of the video, I'll talk about some things of why orphan blocks can be really cool to use for a label. So I'll see you guys in just a sec. Okay, so I brought you in and I'm giving you a whiteboard here because I'm going to try and make this math a little bit easy. I want to let you know that I am using my block that I in fact did have to redo for the BF quilt along. And just to show you, you want to make sure that you cut your seam straight, because that's what's going to happen, is that you're going to get that shortness in your seam. And this was way too short, and loading it on a long arm really concerned me. So I'm going to use this for demonstration purposes. Oh, and yeah, and I haven't even taken the paper off yet, right? So I know that that block is 6.5 inches unfinished, and I want to put it in the middle of a backing. Now, the first thing you have to decide is how much backing that you need. Well, let's just say that I want a 20-inch square. Okay. All right. So everything along here will be 20 inches. Okay. And I want some overage so that I have something to deal with when I'm quilting it. So I'm just going to say that we're going to do, my head don't work that way. There we go. 4 inches. Okay. Extra all the way around. That means that I'm now dealing with a 28-inch square piece of fabric. Okay. With me so far? Easy, right? Okay. Now I'm going to erase the center, because what we want to do is we want to put that 6.5 inch block finishing at 6 inches in the middle. Okay. So remember, this is just a drawing. I'm not using any kind of ruler, so don't hold that against me. But we're going to say this is the center, and that's where we're going to put our block, B for block. Okay. The first thing we want to do is figure out halfway down this line, because we're going to build this strip. Oh, take that back. We're going to do something a little different. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my fabric, whatever fabric I'm using for my backing, and I'm going to cut a 6.5 inch strip with the fabric. Okay. And I'm doing 6.5 because my block is unfinished at 6.5. Okay. Before we get it inside the backing, it is at this right here is 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Sorry, I need to come down. So I'm going to cut a strip that is 6.5 inches wide with the fabric. Okay. That's about 40 inches worth of working material, correct? All right. Now we want to know how long we're going to make it. So we want to know how long this strip is and how long this strip is. Inside of our backing, this block will finish at 6 inches. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I have enough room. Half of 6 is 3. Okay, so 3 inches from here to here and 3 inches from here to here. Okay, half of 28 is 14. But if we just cut 2 14-inch strips, they're going to be more than 28 inches because we have 6 in between, right? So I'm going to take 3 off of each one, which will give me 11 inches. But we're going to lose a 1/4 inch in each of these seams. So I'm going to add a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to cut for here, for these 2 strips, out of that 6.5 inch strip with the fabric that I just cut, I'm going to cut 2 strips that are 11.5 long, okay, out of that 6.5 inch strip. So what will end up being is that we'll end up having a 6.5 by 11.5, 11.25. Because we got to add a 1/4 to here and a 1/4 to here. So we're going to cut 2 strips that'll be 6.5 by 11.25. 11.25 long, 6.5 inches wide. And that is actually what I've already done. So I have 2 of them, okay? And I'm basically going to take my block and I'm going to sew one of them to one side, and then they're in here. And then the other one to the other side. All right? So I'm going to get that done, and then we're going to talk about these 2 pieces that we're going to use. So I'm taking my 11.25 in length by 6.5 inch wide, and I'm attaching it to here. I'm going to take the second 11.25 by 6.5 inch and sew it on this side. So I should have a strip, and it should finish at 6.5. Let me write that down. Okay, this strip right here should finish 28 inches in length and 6.5 inches in width. Okay, so I'm going to get mine together, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the 2 panels on top. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so my strip is done. Got that 1/4 inch seam looking beautiful. I ended up pressing those seams out, just my own preference. But this does measure 6.5 inches wide by 28.5 inches long, okay? So the next thing I'm actually going to do is I am going to add, if you come back to here, I want to add this panel and this panel. So we have to figure out exactly how big that panel needs to be, okay? And so what I will, it's the same math, it's because this is a square. But in case your particular backing isn't a square, I'm going to walk it through again, because you can just simply plug numbers in, okay? So this length right here, going all the way down, is 28 inches. This strip right here is 6.5 inches wide by 28 inches long, okay? So what I'm going to do at this point is I need to figure out halfway down the middle. So 28 divided by 2 is 14. But remember, if we just took a 14-inch panel and a 14-inch panel, we would have 28 inches plus the 6 in the middle. So that ain't gonna work, okay? So what, again, we do is when this finishes, it will finish at 6 inches wide inside. We will lose a 1/2 inch in our seam. So it's gonna finish at 6. What's half of 6? Half of 6 is 3. So again, halfway through this strip, we'd have, when it's in the quilt, when it's in the backing, we will have 3 inches going here and 3 inches going here, okay? So we have 3 inches over here. So I'm going to take that 14 inches that is halfway, and I'm going to subtract the 3 inches, okay? Because that's our middle, right along there. That's our middle. That gives us 11. Now when we add this strip to this panel A, we're going to lose a 1/4 inch off of this panel. So I'm going to add it in now when I cut it. So when I sew it, it finishes correctly. So I'm actually going to cut 11.25 wide by 28 inches full length long. So what I actually did is I actually went to my backing fabric and I cut 2 strips, 11.25. To be honest with you, I cut them in 11.5 because I wanted to make sure I was straight. And I'll take the 1/4 inch later. But you can cut 11.25 inch strip with the fabric. Cut 2 of those. Turn it and make them 11.5 inches wide by 28 inches long. This is 11.25 before it's sewn this way and 28 inches this way. And you'll need 2 of those, right? You'll need one on the top and one on the bottom. Okay, so you need panel A and panel B. Both of them are 11.25 wide by 28 inches long. So I cut 2 strips, 11.25, and then I took them down to be, instead of 40 inches long, I took them down to 28 inches. And that gave me a lot of fabric to put into my stash, okay? If you had, scrap pieces maybe you wanted to use in this original strip, so be it. That make sure they're just the right size, that they are 6.5 by 11.25 each before you sew it in. If you are using pieces that are large enough, as long as they will measure 28 inches long by 11.25 wide, you're good to go. And you're just simply, and I've already cut mine, okay? And you're just simply with your 1/4 inch seam, and it will be fine. If you wanted to do a 1/2 inch seam, you could, but instead of adding a 1/4, add a 1/2, because then you'll lose it. But then this will be a little smaller too. That's a whole nother game. We don't want to play that. I just did a 1/4 inch. I've done this before. It works great. I'm going to line them up on top, and I'm just going to sew them together, right sides together, and then I'll take the second one and I'll add it down here. Okay, so lining them right sides together and just sew it right along that line, a 1/4 inch seam. So that's how we're going to get it in the center. So I'm going to get mine on and I'm going to get them pressed, and I will press out. Okay, now There's many other methods to do this, and you could have a lot of fun doing it. But I wanted to show you my method, and this is how I did it. This is how I've done it. But I'm going to get this done. I'm going to come right back at you and talk to you again just a second. Here she is, right in the smack of the center. And as you see, I've actually went ahead and wrote on it, which brings me to a couple of ideas. So once you get your backing prepared, knowing and understanding that this is the center, when you go to place on your topper, just make sure that you're giving yourself the allowance and getting it is in the center before you quilt it. Okay, you don't want to line it up too far on one side or the other. And it's very easy when it's a small project to make sure that your topper is in fact centered around this. You do not have to square your backing. If you've got one that's a little longer than the other, it's fine as long as you know where your center is and you place that topper on top of your batting and your backing where this is going to be in the middle. So just want you to be aware of that. But I did write on it, and I'm going to throw a little picture up here because I know that you're not going to be able to see this. And it's just ideas. I just put piece by, and normally I wouldn't just leave my last initial. I just wrote too big and went too far in. So you want to make sure you plan before you write. This is just a practice. I did put that I quilted it. I put the date in one corner. Labor of love. You could put anything in here. I put the location, practice away. That's what I'm titling it. Maybe you want to put who it's for, why it was given to them. Maybe they got married. Maybe it was a Christmas gift. Maybe just because you're friends. So there's so many things that you can do with this. And before you actually put it as a sandwich or start to quilt it, if you've got iron-on labels, or if you bought labels from a company that are small, you can put those in there too, and actually, you know, stitch around it to help keep it in place or to keep it from fraying, depending on what kind of in the middle you've used. You could totally do that, and then it won't show with your quilting, right? Just more ideas. And I've also you know, got some more orphan blocks, and I'll throw this one up as a picture too, but these spaces are big enough that I could actually write inside of those spaces. The same goes for this one, depending. I would try personally, because I was well, it wouldn't even matter. So I would just make sure if this was right side up, I would write in the orange facing down, right? So all the words would be going along here. If I put it where it was this direction, I'd just make sure everything is going towards, actually I would write them out. That would be me, but see, that's just it. There's so much creativity in using orphan blocks as your labels. This one I'm looking forward to because you've got all these triangles, and if I had a different fabric, which it won't be, this is my orphan block, but you could write along here if it was possible. This is a little too busy for me, so I'm going to leave that whenever I use this, but every one of those triangles I can put words in there. And I used my favorite marking tool at the present time. It's Tulip Paint fabric paint markers, which I did a video in. I'll put a link on that, on some different writing utensils and what I found. And I'm going to do another one later this year too, because I've learned about some more and I'm excited to try them before I do the video. So you'll see those again too. But there's so much creativity that is afforded to you. How awesome would this be? And this is another place, depending on how big that little label might be. Maybe it's just your name, maybe it's the name of the person, but you could possibly fit it inside of these squares too. You could put it on one of these, and actually it doesn't have to be in the square or in the strip. It could overlay depending on how big it is. There's so much creativity in using your orphan blocks, and putting it right smack in the middle makes it stand out, makes it permanent. You can't take it out without destroying all that work in the quilt possibly. So This is such a fun idea. I hope you're inspired. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below. You can email me. My email address is in the description box. I will put a link, an Amazon link, and I am an affiliate with Amazon, so I'll make a few little bitty pennies here and there. But for the tulip fabric markers, paint markers, I put a link down there for you with that too. But any questions, email, drop a comment, or come visit us on Facebook. I'll be there live on our business page. Link for that is down below too. And if you've ever used an Orphan Block as a label, I would love, love, love for you to share inside the Creative Kingdom, our community group. That would be awesome. Would love to see what you have done. You can email me those pictures too. That would be fantabulous. I would absolutely love it. And I would love to be able to share that with others too. So if you let me know if I have permission to share it, that would be great. But I will be again on Facebook Live today, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I truly hope to see you there. I hope this was inspirational. And until next time, guys, may y'all continue to be inspired, productive, and joyful. And never stop making your dreams in quilting come true. I love y'all. I'll see y'all soon. Happy quilting.